I feel like there's a lot out there that elementary music teachers like me weren't told or weren't taught or didn't know they could be themselves and didn't know you could bring your own style of teaching into your classroom. And it just kind of like that interest was sparked, and it just kind of was always swirling in my head and I didn't know what to do with it. And then, yeah, so I did kind of always want to help teachers with just using your own voice and your own style.
Hey teachers, and welcome back to the Topcast, your place for weekly inspiration and strategy for your music teaching studio. It's wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's just a delight to receive the feedback that we get on social media and on our show notes pages. And I just wanted to extend a super quick invitation. If you've got anything that you would like us to talk about on this podcast or a guest that you would like me to interview, I'd love to hear from you. You can either find us over on social media, just search for topmusic.co. Or you can shoot us through an email to admin@topmusic.co, and I'd love to hear any of your suggestions for future episodes. Today on the podcast, we have a very special guest. Her name is Jessica, and she is an elementary music teacher who was completely thrown in the deep end for her first job as a music teacher, building a program from scratch. And she now helps other music teachers around the world do exactly the same thing. Now, even if you're not an elementary music classroom music teacher or primary school music teacher, as we would say over here, you're going to get lots from today's show as an independent music studio owner, because you're going to learn a lot about the kind of approach that Jessica uses and the way in which she attacked some of the challenges that she had when she first entered this area. And she now helps teachers, as I say, all around the world with their own teaching. Jessica Peresta graduated with her Bachelor's of Music in 2004 and earned the Top Music Educator Award, and is currently pursuing her Master's in Educational Technology from the University of Arkansas. She went on to build a music program from scratch at an elementary school in Tulsa, Oklahoma, earning the Teacher of the Year and Teacher of Today awards during her second year of teaching. Pretty cool. Jessica has used her expertise to found The Domestic Musician, and we'll talk about that name a little bit later on, because I was wondering, well, how does that work? Where she mentors and supports elementary music teachers through her Harmony membership site, the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast, and her book, Make a Note, What You Really Need to Know About Teaching Elementary Music. Hey, Jessica Peresta, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here today.
I'm very excited to meet you and have a bit of a chat about all the great things you're doing to support the primary school and elementary classroom teacher music teachers of the world. We were just talking before we hit record. I'm sort of supporting more the independent studio music teachers. You're doing really similar things with your podcast and membership for elementary or what we call primary school music teachers over here. So I wonder if we could just start with a little bit of your own background, because there must be a pretty interesting story that's got you to what you're doing now. So, and I also understand you're a pianist. So tell us, You started learning quite early, did you?
Yes. So my musical background starts pretty much at the age of 6. My first grade teacher had a piano in her classroom. She wasn't our music teacher. She was my homeroom teacher, and played Jolly Old St. Nicholas for our class. And I kind of sat behind the upright piano, didn't see her fingers. My dad, ironically, had just gotten a piano. I don't know why. It was just being given away. So he was just like, well, we'll take it. Nobody knew how to play the thing. And I just went home that day just with my index finger and just kind of picked out the melody. It took me a little bit. It's not like it was right away. And so basically, long story short, I was in piano forever and started as a piano performance major in college, and then switched to music education my sophomore year, and basically was also 3 credits short of having also a piano performance degree. I just didn't pass just because it was the same semester as student teaching. And anyways, so when I got my degree, I started teaching in the middle of a school year at this school that hadn't had a music program for 7 years. And there were no resources, no instruments, no, teacher I followed in their footsteps to use their curriculum or anything. And it was really hard. And I kind of just had to figure it out. And so what's brought me to where I am today and my mission behind my business and why I started it in the first place is because I know a lot of times elementary music teachers do not have a mentor teacher, or they feel like, you're alone in your building because you might be the only one, or just communities kind of lack And so just kind of started with an idea, and it just kind of started from there. So just with a dream.
Very, very cool, Jessica. I love how it just evolved organically over time, related to the experiences that you were having. However, you've just covered like 20 years of life probably in like 2 minutes.
Right?
Can we just go back a step too? I just want to go back, like starting at 6. I mean, that's probably about a regular time, I guess. I started at 8. How did you go? What was your teacher like originally? Was it quite traditional or quite flexible? And then tell us into your teenage years, because that's the spot that everyone gets a bit stuck and it's so easy to lose students. So how did you keep going?
Yeah, so my teacher, it was just like a piano teacher at our church, and she, the method books. And then as I kept going, I'm classically trained. I always say that I wish I had taken more of something else too, because it was not, all my teachers were classically trained pianists, which is amazing. But I feel like I got like the one track. Like, for example,
it's only part of the story.
Yes. When someone puts a chord chart in front of me, the first time that happened, I felt stupid because I sat there just being honest. I was like, well, what do I do? I know what these chords are, but what do I do with them? And everybody's like, what do you mean? And I was like, where's the music? Like, where's the sheet music? Anyway, so.
But that's a super common situation. It's one that I really try and help music teachers stop their students experiencing that same thing, because it shouldn't be that way. And in actual fact, just like tab for guitar, it makes guitar learning simpler at the start if you want to use that method, or just chord learning on guitar, chord learning on piano through chord charts. It's an easy way to have some great wins with students without them having to be bogged down in music, if they can understand just those simple concepts. So you had this music put in front of you, you kind of freaked out, felt dumb. Did you go away and try and learn it yourself, or did you have a teacher at the time who could help you?
Well, yeah, I did. One teacher did chord charts, and then I was with her for like a year, but just that experience of learning something different. I remember even what do they call them? Like the note cards, you would use to study for tests.
Yeah, like flashcards.
There you go. We would have all these note cards with just different songs with chords on them. And then when I continued on, and then college was very classically trained, focused, I felt like I could do a little bit of, of both. Yeah, I really fully believe like giving kids in piano lessons a well-rounded experience, even if it's out of your comfort zone as a music teacher or a piano teacher, will definitely pay off, because now I'm here I am years later wishing I had gotten more exposure to different styles that I didn't.
Exactly. So you kept on playing through your teenage years, and then you said you went to university and you were studying piano performance. That was your degree at first, and then you switched to music education. So what was it? One too many Bach inventions or Beethoven sonatas? What cracked you?
Yeah. So what happened was I kind of just had this revelation that I have always loved working with kids in one capacity or another. I've been a camp counselor, a babysitter, taught private piano lessons while I was in college. And I just really enjoyed working with children. And the area I lived in, there were music education. The teachers just were needed. And so I switched. Piano was still my primary instrument and carried me through college. And I kind of have a heart, I still do, to do both. And I still do both. So like I still accompany, I still play piano, I still teach piano lessons, but I also, I knew I just had a desire to work with children and to be a role model. And I wanted to teach in the schools to really, because I know music changed my life in a different way, but I knew I kind of wanted to give that experience to kids too, even if they didn't become musicians into adulthood. I kind of had a heart change, and just, so that's kind of how it happened. Yeah,
it's a wonderful mission, and the passion I can hear coming through your voice. That you obviously landed in the right spot, but maybe in the wrong school. So tell me about this. So you finished your degree, you've got your teaching ticket. Here I am, everyone. Did you see a job ad? Or did someone approach you? Because it sounds a bit weird that they've hired you as a music teacher in a school that had no music program.
Oh, man. This story is kind of crazy. So I graduated in December, and so I was going to get my teaching job that next fall when positions start opening up in the summer. Yeah.
How come you finished in December? Because doesn't your universities over there finish in like June-ish?
Well, I was a weird exception. I did my student teaching in the fall instead of the spring. So I did it because I kind of switched my degree plan. I was a semester behind. Yep. Yeah. So that was my plan. I was planning to just substitute teach and then get a teaching job that fall. Well, one position was opening up. I had found out in the district, like the city I lived in Tulsa. And I said, okay, well, why don't I just apply and see what happens? What had happened was they had art. The art teacher was going on sick leave for her son. And then she had a long-term substitute in there, and they decided, well, why don't we just go ahead and switch to music instead? It's kind of, I really don't even know how that all transpired, but that's how that one single position opened up. And I interviewed, and I think I'm the only one that interviewed. And I did, and then as I was in the position, realized why. There was a high turnover of teachers, and it was a really tough school to teach at. A lot of turnover, and that first semester of me teaching was very challenging because I was just kind of figuring it all out on my own.
And so you were, what years were you teaching? What age, levels?
Kindergarten through 5th grade.
Far out. Okay. And so you had taken over from the art teacher.
Yeah.
So the school had just gone, well, we can't find a new art teacher, or we don't want to. So let's hire Jessica and she can teach music instead.
Right. Just total switch. And so getting these kids in who were looking at me like, you're teaching us what? So
that is super tough. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And you already said it wasn't the easiest of schools to teach at. There were some challenging students, I assume you mean by that. And classroom behavior management was obviously a challenge too, I would say. Yeah. Okie dokie. So the school, 7 years before you joined, the school did have a music program, maybe even a music and arts program if we're lucky.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason that stopped. It changed to arts, and then you came in and they said, go Jessica.
Yeah,
you graduate
pretty
teacher,
much.
You can start a new program.
Yeah. So, empty classroom, no resources, but they were like, you're taking over. And I'm like, well, what do I do? There's nothing in here.
Yes.
And she just kind of looked at me and I looked at her and I'm like, all right, well.
So was there even like some clapped out piano in the corner of the room? Was there anything?
Okay. Yes, I did play piano.
Okay.
So I did have that. I say, when I say I have no instruments, I did have that. It was very attitude there.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know how to play this, okay?
Right, kids, come in, sit and listen. I'll play for the period. There's your music lesson.
Yeah.
So, Jessica, how on earth did you, what did you do? Was there websites to go to, podcasts to listen to? Tell us, what happened?
Yeah, so this was back in 2004. So there were websites, but Instagram wasn't a thing. And I know Facebook had just come out. But it was very... a lot of Google searching, a lot of just trying to figure it out. And I didn't know any teachers to ask yet, but I do remember finding this old set of textbooks in this closet that were just kind of buried deep in there. And I said, well, what are these? I mean, they were old. I would say like 15 years old or something crazy. But I remember just pulling them out, and I knew I couldn't use the old CDs. The music was very cheesy, but I knew that the songs in the activities in these books, some of them I could definitely use just in a different way. And so that's exactly how I started. I had no budget, but I said, I'm going to start with this, then slowly figure it out from here. And that's exactly how I did it.
Well, yeah, I would imagine that the first thing I would do is, if I can't find stuff online, I'd find some old textbooks and then base my teaching around that. Had you had any experience with Kadai or ORF or any of those things, which are really great for classrooms and have been around forever? Was that part of your music teaching education degree? I guess it should have been.
Yeah, right. We had, in my elementary music methods class, they cover the basics of it. This is what you could do. These are the methods, but it's very basic. And so slowly my district, some of the music teachers had hosted 1-day workshops and things like that for Kadai and ORF. And then later on, I did get my ORF level certification. But at first, I had like a very basic understanding of what that was because just of what I had learned in college, the very basics of it.
Yeah, it reminds me, actually, I used to do, over here in Australia, we have something called after school care. Do you have something like that where kids can stay back at school? They pay a bit extra, but the parents collect them at 6 o'clock or whatever.
Yeah.
And I used to be a team member when I was really young, just left school, 19, 20, 21-ish. I was a team member for one of these programs, and they found out that I was a musician, and they're like, well, why don't you start a music program as part of this? And I felt that same kind of sense of,
Right.
yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
Should we do some music listening? What can I do? So I can really associate with you in those thoughts of, okay, this is kind of exciting. Like, this is actually a really privileged position to be in one place, because I can kind of do whatever I want. But two, there's also that sense of, well, actually, I should try and get this right as well. We want some kind of progression, and building curricula is tricky, particularly for a graduate. I'm super impressed, Jessica. And I can now see already, just from this discussion, how this is such a crucial point in your life, because it's the learnings that you had here, the experience, the terror that you probably had, the struggles, the pains, that has helped you develop what you have created now for music teachers, which we'll talk about in a minute. Just before that, what did the program kind of end up looking like once you'd been there for a few years? Actually, how long did you stay there?
Actually, ironically, I was there 7 years. And the reason I left, my school was closing, and the district... Yeah, right after all that.
What? I thought you were going to say they you left and they hired an art teacher to come back in.
No, they were closing different school buildings in the district and kind of consolidating schools. I don't know why. It was what they did, and we actually found out we were moving to a new state in the States, and that's where I decided, well, I don't want to go, ironically, and be 2 months in and then we move. And so I decided to not get it. They were going to offer me a new position at a new school. And that's kind of how that journey ended.
Right. Okay. But did you already have thoughts then about how the things you'd learnt you could teach other teachers?
I did, because I knew I kind of felt like the black sheep in a way. I have always done things my own way, where I feel like I would be at workshops and everybody just kind of would follow the leader. Like, oh, we're all going to do this. And I remember thinking in my head, yeah, but I like that, but I'm going to do it this way and put my own spin on it in my own style. And I remember after a couple times, I had some people in the district come in, observe me, and they were kind of curious, and then they wanted me to be in an infomercial, and then the school closed. It was crazy. But they were asking me, like, how do you do this? How are your kids so engaged? How are you getting them involved? How? And it was like that moment clicked with me that, is this not how a lot of the music classes are? Not everyone, but I just thought that was what happened in an elementary music class, just, kind of how you did it. And I remember just like, okay, I feel like there's a lot out there that elementary music teachers like me weren't told or weren't taught or didn't know they could be themselves and didn't know you could bring your own style of teaching into your classroom. And it just kind of like that interest was sparked, and it just kind of was always swirling in my head, and I didn't know what to do with it. And then, so I did kind of always want to help teachers with just using your own voice and your own style. And it was always kind of in the back of my mind for sure.
Okay. And so that's why you didn't jump straight into a new teaching role, which is kind of risky in some ways, because, I mean, even when I started realizing that I wanted to help other teachers, I started with a blog and then started doing some videos, but all at the same time I was still teaching at schools or privately at least. So how are you supporting yourself when you finished at that school and before you had drawn an income from your own business?
Yeah. So another part of my story is I have 3 boys, and my oldest has autism, and my middle son, he has outgrown a lot of them. But when he was a baby and a toddler, he had a ton of food allergies. And then we had our third, who's just a third child. But I remember when my oldest son had been in daycare until he was 2 before we moved to our new location. And with as many food allergies as my middle son had, I just knew I just needed to take a break. I didn't know how long that meant. And I had every intention of going back to the classroom. And what I had said is, if we need my income, I have 7 years of retirement to fall back on. Not that I want to pull from that, but it's there. Well, and that I'm really grateful for that time, because I know everybody's not given that, but that's where I was able to sit and go, what I've always kind of thought about doing, I could have time to start now. And what's the worst that can happen? If it doesn't take off, if I end up not making an income, I can go back to teaching. Like, I have a degree. And that's kind of how it started. It was moving to a new state. I got recertified. I had my teaching degree transferred and I was going to go back in. And then I just felt in my heart it wasn't the right time. Because a lot of it was the mom stuff.
You wanted to be a mum, or you needed to be a mum, and have that time, which I'm sure you don't regret now. And as you say, the headspace that you got from that time, and I talk to teachers about this too, particularly ones that want to start their own businesses or side incomes. Just having the space to think and consider is really important when you are looking to do a new venture. Because sometimes if you're full-time parent, full-time work, you just never get that break. Your brain doesn't have time to process things. So I totally understand. Yeah. So how did you start? And this will be really interesting for my Evolution members. So we've got an Evolution tier, I'm not sure you're familiar, where I coach other teachers about building their own income streams online. How did you start? What did you do to start building an audience of teachers so that they knew, we know Jessica's the one to follow for this information?
Yeah, it's scary. It is scary putting yourself out there online, especially when you don't, I don't have a business background. And it, like you said, it started with a blog. It was just a lot of research, how to do it. What do I do? Where do I put the blog? What website do I use? Oh my gosh, all that information. It is overwhelming at first. And this is before I invested in any courses to help me or anything like that. It was a lot of figuring it out on my own. So it simply started with me blogging. At first, it was me not having any idea what I was doing. I didn't know anything about SEO or making sure that it was searchable. It was just writing about what I was passionate about. Then I noticed one of my blog posts went viral, not intentionally. And it was, oh gosh, what was the title of it? Something about I'm not a glorified babysitter, I'm a music teacher, something along those lines.
Oh yeah, I can see how that would resonate.
It just went, and I didn't even intend for it to. It just kind of just went shared everywhere. And National Association for Music Education was like, "Can we reshare this?" And I'm like, "Hello, yeah, of course." Okay. I'm like, "How did you find me?" So that one blog post alone, it just because I wrote it from my heart, and I think I titled it something so catchy that it just kind of took off. So I started with all, like you said, with a blog. Then I slowly was starting to consider what do I do with this now? How do I monetize? What else do I want to do? What direction am I wanting to go with this? It just started with some readers a lot of those readers this was 5 years ago, have been with me from the beginning. It's really cool because they're like, "I read your very first blog post." I'm like, "Sorry." That's
what I say when people find my first YouTube video. It's like, oh, I really should delete that. Awful.
I know.
So you started about 2015? Is that right?
Yeah, around there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. And I assume you didn't know about lead magnets and collecting emails and building lists and things like that. So when did you start working all that out in order to actually, grow an audience that you could then sell products and services to?
Yeah. So listen to all the business podcasts I could find. I also read all the blog posts.
Got any favorites there that you can remember?
Oh man. Okay. So James Wedmore, Stu McLaren. I went through the Tribe membership, and and then I went through B School with Marie Forleo. And
really? Wow. So Amy Porterfield as well.
Yeah, Amy Porterfield. All the. And then
I
there's
did
a bunch.
Exactly the same.
Yeah. And just took notes and notes and notes and notes about what to do, how to do it. And then, so at first it did just start with me consuming any free content I could find. Then it turned into me realizing, okay, I think I've gone as far as I can go without, investing to get help. And then, once I did that, that's when I really learned. I had already, I think from just something I read online about how to start an email list, and that's how I did that. But I didn't really know what to say in the emails. I didn't really know, what do I know I'm supposed to email them weekly or biweekly or whatever, but I didn't know what to say and how to get them engaged and how to segment a list. And so I really fully do believe in paid training, to get you help with things you don't know about, because you're not going to know how to do everything, and that's okay.
Well, it can shortcut. I guess you could probably have learned all that, but it might have taken you 2 years, whereas really quality paid training, you could do it in 2 months sort of thing. Can you remember what was that the Marie Forleo that you're talking about?
Yes. Yep. B School is what helped me with just the foundation of it all, of what to write in a blog post, what do you say, how SEO, email list, how to keep your audience engaged, how to monetize, all the things. So that's the first paid program I invested in.
Yeah, and well worth it by the sounds of things. So tell us what you've got today, what you offer, and how it all looks.
Okay, so now I have a membership site for elementary music teachers called the Harmony Membership. I also have a course for first-year music teachers. I did sell it separately. It's still for sale, but I usually offer it as an upsell for when you join the membership site. You can also get the course for half off.
Mm-hmm.
I published my first book last year.
Hey, congratulations.
Yeah.
That's something still on my list. I'll have to get some tips from you.
Oh, that's a different ball game all on its own. It's like, what? How do I write a book? But and I have a podcast too for elementary music teachers. So it is a lot of, I know you get asked this question all the time. It's like, do I do a course, a membership site? What do I do? How do I do it? I think it just starts by putting one foot in front of the other. You're not going to know all the answers. You're not going to know how to monetize or what to do. And a lot of it for me came from listening to my audience. And that's where I decided membership site, because I know my personality. I want to keep pouring into them and keep coaching them and mentoring, and not just here's a one thing and then
bye-bye.
So I know for me personally, I think it's the teacher in me. I want to keep mentoring. So that's where the membership site really was. This just feels like this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
How long have you been doing the membership site for?
It is 2 years old. So I had another membership site and it was okay. It was not, I wouldn't say terrible. In fact, videos, I did a lot of teaching videos where I was teaching lessons, and I just felt like it was not what I wanted. And so I basically said, anybody in here can keep all the stuff. And then I closed it down. And then that's when I found Tribe, which taught me how to run a membership site. And not that there's a wrong way. I just knew for me, the way I had been doing it, there was no clear system. It was just, okay, this week I'll do a video. I think I might provide a PDF. Maybe I'll go live on Facebook today. It just was it was random, and the retention rate was awful.
Right.
And I was like, I really need to rethink this, because I know this is what I meant to do. It's just not working anymore. Mm-hmm. So all those videos are now a bonus inside of my membership site now that I had recorded. So they didn't go to waste. They're in there still. So
yeah. And I think this is a great lesson for those listening who are interested in maybe offering something online for teachers, or anyone really, is that it takes time to, as you said, to number one, work out what you're going to do, and number two, to work out how to actually do it. And you'll take missteps and you'll backtrack sometimes, and then you'll go in a slightly different direction. You'll pivot a little bit. You started a membership, you moved to a different one, you close that down. I launched a course, I shut that down. I did a membership, we've changed pricing, we've changed offers. Like that just happens over time with any business. Oh, yeah. And it's instructive, I think, for people listening who don't have that, to go, you know what, we're not going to get it right the first time. Just like that first podcast or first YouTube video, it's probably going to be a bit of a mess at the start, but that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Other thing I picked up too from you is, or something I wanted to mention was if you do want to go down this path, you have to choose an outlet that suits your personality and your drive. So you said memberships suit me because I'm a teacher, I want to mentor, I want to counsel people. That may not be the case for everyone else. Mm-hmm. Maybe, writing books is better, or maybe pure YouTube is better. Or if you don't like video, then don't do video, do podcasting, things like that. Have you had any teachers in your group who have expressed an interest in learning about what you've done and themselves?
Yes, they have. I've been asked that question a lot. And so that's recent for me, as I've started doing some business coaching kind of on the side, because I've been asked that question so many times, is how did you do that? Like, how are you able to, and like you said, that is something I wish someone had let me know, is maybe some people do, but I did not make money right away. It took time. The biggest piece of advice I can give is it takes so much consistency, showing up even if you're not seeing the financial benefits of it right away. And what drives me is my passion. And so, yes, I get asked that question all the time, is how do you do this? How did you learn how to do this when you don't know anything about business? And it is just about being scrappy, getting in there and just like you said, trial and error. What works, what didn't work, and pivoting and being okay with that, not being too hard on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I imagine you might have some people helping you now, or are you still doing all this yourself? Because one of the challenges of a membership site is content creation and making sure your members are happy and things. So do you have some people helping you?
I last year hired my first employee.
Hey.
She's my yeah, I know.
Well
it was
done.
like this is very like much needed. She's a community manager. She is helping me with content, but also in the Facebook groups. I have two, one for the membership and one for a free group, and just doing anything I need from her. She's amazing. And so what's cool about that is because I never hired anyone, was like, how do I find that person? And I don't remember who I heard say this, but this is how I did it. I heard someone say, well, look for someone who's already showing up without you asking. And I was like, what does that mean? So there was this person who she was in my membership and she just kept offering, hey, I created this resource. Does anybody want it? Without even
Oh, wow.
asking
That's
anything.
great. Yeah.
She was just constantly showing up, and she was the person I kept seeing. And I was like, what's the worst she can say is no? So, because she's still a full-time teacher. And I said, Katie, would you be interested in, working for me part-time, just a few hours a week? And she was like, oh my gosh, yes, I would love it. And it's been a great thing. Like, it's worked out really well. So that's been so helpful, being like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing 100% of the things anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah. And of course that can build over time as well. I mean, you've got great potential to scale now and have teachers from other parts of the world potentially. Do you have members in other countries, or is it particularly US specific?
Mostly US, but yes, I do. I have members from, I would say, about 6 different countries right now. So it's really cool to see that.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
And so there may be some people listening who are elementary music teachers in the classroom, as well as doing some music on the side. So what kind of teachers are most suited to what you do and what you offer?
Yeah, I would say it's for any elementary music teacher, whether you are a first-year music teacher or whether I have teachers in my membership who have been teaching 20 plus years. And it's just a community for anyone. And what I tell people is, you get it as a membership site owner, is you get out of it what you need. Some people are there for the lesson plans. Some want the monthly trainings. Some want the bonus resources, whatever. But I would say, if you're an elementary music teacher, even if the membership site's not a right fit, then just start by listening to my podcast. And I know that, you'll get value from it.
Wonderful. You better give us some links though. So where can people find out more about what you do?
You can find everything. My website is thedomesticmusician.com, and there you'll see links for my podcast, the membership site, the book, and all the things. And I hang out mostly on Instagram at Jessica Peresta.
Okay, I've got to finish with this question. Why the domestic musician? Sounds like, I don't know, a cooking show or something. I don't
I love it. No, so that name, I've actually thought about rebranding so many times, but I'm like, the thought of how painful that would be. But that started because of me being a mom and then starting a business on the side as a musician. And it just kind of like, I was writing, when you're writing out all the names, and I'm like, this is so different. I was going to name it something just like the music teacher or Elementary Teacher Academy,
music.
or
yes, exactly,
something which would be more SEO friendly, speaking of SEO. But I was like, no, this is kind of who I am. I'm like a mom, but a musician. So bam. But I love it because it's just different.
It's different. Yeah. Good on you. I like it. So domestic musician, go and check it out online. Jessica, super cool to properly meet you, connect with you. You're doing such wonderful things, and I know how much I should say the teachers who are following you will be valuing what you do and all the effort you put in. So keep it up, and thanks very much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed today's interview, everyone. It's always fun catching up with other people supporting teachers in this small niche that we have here of music teaching. And Jessica's just doing such fabulous work with all the teachers that she supports. So definitely go over and check out her website and podcast. And if you're unsure of where to find any of that stuff, then make sure you check out the show notes page. Now, next week on the podcast, I'm delighted to be joined by Paul Leverchier from Music. Now, if you're not familiar with Music, this is a very, very cool app, and it's brought out recently some new features that allows you to scan scores straight into XML format. Now, If that just went over your head, then never fear. We're going to unpack what that actually means and what it actually, the ways in which it can actually help you in your studio next week. And Paul actually has a super offer for a month's free trial for any new music app downloaders who are listening next week. So we'll talk about how that's going to help you in your studio and in your teaching and in your performing if you're a performer. And we'll share that link with you as well then. I'm looking forward to speaking to you. If you missed anything, of course, head over to the show notes page, topmusic.co/episode 251. I'm Tim Topham, and you've been listening to the Topcast. It's been great to have you with me, and I look forward to speaking to you again next week. For more information about this episode and to find out how to enhance your own teaching, visit topmusic.co. You'll find everything you need for your studio, from lesson plans to cheat sheets, quick win teaching ideas, and guides on how to build your teaching business. Plus, you'll be connected to a global community of the world's top music teachers. And when you're ready, join hundreds of other teachers around the world by becoming a Top Music Pro member and get access to all our bonus content and flagship courses. And don't forget to follow topmusic.co on social media and subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to it. That's all for today. We'll see you in the studio.